Okay. In the very essence of poetry. I'm going to start with a poem that was written by the most famous Polish poet. His name was Czesław Miłosz. The Latin title is Ars Poetica. W samej istocie poezji jest coś nieprzystojnego. Powstaje z nas rzecz, o której nie wiedzieliśmy, że w nas jest. Więc mrugamy oczami, jakby wyskoczył z nas tygrys i stał w świetle, ogonem bijąc się po bokach. In the very essence of poetry, there is something indecent. A thing is brought forth which we didn't know we had in us. So we blink our eyes as if a tiger had sprang out and stood in the light, lashing his tail. Ladies and gentlemen, poetry is dead. According to the research that has been done by CNN, the number of people who buy poetry in the US is 20 million, which is the same as the amount of viewers for a single episode of Game of Thrones. In today's market, a book of poetry is lucky to sell 5,000 copies. We don't publish, we don't encounter, and we don't carry poetry anymore, because it's not easy money. Poetry is dead, and its blood is on our hands. Poets used to be like rock stars. People used to be crazy about them. They loved their ability of playing with words in a way that makes us feel deeper. Poetry is all about seeing others. It gave our empathy a possibility to grow and develop in a way that's unique. What went wrong then? Why on our way of developing humanity, we lost respect for something that makes us more human? Like in Miłosz's poem from the beginning, what stands on our way of us standing in the light? The answer is easy. Rushing. We live in a hurry. Poetry, on the other hand, is everything but not rushing. When you have a poem, you have to stop and understand it. You have to stop and read it a few times. You have to stop and feel. The last part is the most important one. Because in order to associate with poets' struggle, you have to slow down. Poetry is like an open gateway to see ourselves in someone else's struggle. How many things nowadays make us feel this way? TV, shopping, money, our phones. When you learn how to read poetry, you learn how to read people. Like in Miłosz's poem from the beginning. A thing is brought forth, which we didn't know we had in us. It is so rare nowadays to see something that we all have inside. Understanding. Because of nowadays lifestyle, because of the rush that we live in, we don't see each other. We have troubles with seeing stories around us. And that's why poetry is so beneficial, so unique, and so important in our times. Something that we can do to appreciate the art of word more is to start feeding kids with beautiful literature at school. How many of you have ever seen the movie Dead Poets Society? It's a great movie about an English teacher, Mr. Keating, who showed his students that reading, writing, and understanding poetry can change people's mindset. As he said, we don't read and write poetry because it's cute. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race, and the human race is filled with passion. And medicine, law, business, engineering. These are all noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for. Today's youth need more teachers like that. Mentors that will fill us with an experience, with a beautiful language that provokes new ideas and deeper understanding. But for the most important part, that shows us how to live. Now I understand that for some of us, poetry seems like a waste of time. But at the same time, for some of us, it's a way of survival. And if my argument didn't convince you, the research shows that reading poetry can sharpen the power of observance. And the research shows that reading original poetry in the classroom can foster empathy and trust in the classroom community. Which all of that drives us back to the main point of my speech. That poetry is able to build a safe environment for people to being seen and to see others. Poetry is also a great way to learn another language. As the research shows, short poems make a complete textual analysis more manageable for English language learners. I became more fluent when I started to read Shakespeare's plays in English, or translations of my favorite poems. It makes you look wider at the possibilities of a language. When unnecessary needs blind us, poetry reminds us of the richness and diversity of our lives. The art of word is dying, and it's a tragedy. Because if we're gonna lose it, we're gonna lose one of the best ways to build an authentic view for our future people. So yes, indeed, in the very essence of poetry, there is something decent. I think is brought forth, which we didn't know we had in us. Thank you.